Some other business apparently. Let's see. All right, Bill Brigman was going to give us a presentation about the state mandated changes to teacher evaluation 2018-2019.
We are running, I know board members want to get home, and Bill and Terry are welcome to come to the table if they want to address your questions. If it's okay with y'all, I will just skim through the high points of this. We would ask you that you put this context about the state mandated change to the teacher evaluation system in the context of the larger conversations that you've had today in your earlier work session and in the presentations from the Strategic Education Committee. The state, as you know, mandates how teachers and principals are evaluated in South Carolina. The state regulations regarding teacher evaluation are changing with the coming school year. So these are the important points we wanted to discuss with the board. We propose that a committee of teachers and principals will be involved in recommending the Charleston County School District's particular approach to the evaluation process for 2018-19 in accordance with the state mandates. Secondly, Charleston County School District will not use EVOS or any other growth measure in conjunction with teacher evaluation processes for at least the next 3 years. Thirdly, we want to point out that Act 94 requires that growth measures be used at the school level. The state regulations PADEPT on the principal evaluation mandate that the principals are held accountable for growth in one of their three goal areas. The next bullet, the school district would continue to roster verify our teachers and students. That means making sure that a teacher verifies what amount of time each teacher taught which student using either the EVOS or whatever growth measure instrument is selected by the state. The state has an RFP out right now for a new growth instrument, so it could be EVOS or it could be some other tool. The next important point, that individual teacher EVOS data would be provided to principals and to teachers so that teachers will know where they stand in comparison with other teachers who teach children just like theirs. The EVOS tool gathers assessment information from whatever assessment that's been given across districts and compares students of approximately the same age and situated in the same grade who were at that particular achievement level at the beginning of the year with those exact same students at the end of the year. And then they divide into 5 different groups, the teachers who create the highest growth for those children. That's a level 5, or minimal growth, which is level 1. And that's distributed across a bell curve from the lowest 20% to the highest 20%. But we would provide that information back to teachers and principals so that they will know, and principals can help teachers design plans, exposure to professional development opportunities, as we discussed earlier today, so that they can improve their skills, grow. In no instance in the next 3 years or ever should we hear a principal say that a teacher contract action is being taken because of EVOS. That was never the intention before. There was the hugest of miscommunications about that. And that simply would not be a single reason to make any sort of recommendation regarding a teacher contract. And for the next 3 years, the district will use the EVOS data to understand the patterns at school levels. For example, we don't need to know at the district level the names of specific teachers and the EVOS scores. But what we do need to know is there an equitable distribution across all of our schools of those teachers who are very strong at promoting student growth? If there is, that's wonderful. And if there isn't, then we need to talk about the policy and practices that we need to implement in order to ensure that that's the case. So that's our proposal. The reason for discussing these guidelines with you this evening is to make you aware that we are compiling a committee of teachers and principals, and to prepare for the teachers and principals who serve on that committee a set of parameters that they would need to understand as they undertake this work. So this doesn't need a vote. It's for information only at this time, but that work is moving forward quickly. And we didn't want to to have any misunderstanding about it or have you approached with questions to
Can we
which you answer.
publicize that somewhere? So
I'd like to have both of these things put on the district website if we
Because
could.
there'll be a crowd that will say something the complete opposite of what you just said. And we'd like to be able to point to it.
We can. We shared these bullets with principals at the last principals meeting, making sure that they were on board with this, and provided these bullets to them in writing, and to a point that the board was making earlier today. We will follow through this year and make sure that the same message makes its way through the system, because that's where I didn't follow through last year, and so we will not make that mistake again. So, thank you.
I'm just trying to figure out, why is EVOS the boogeyman? Right? Why is collecting data on student achievement based on teacher instruction and teacher involvement, why is that such a bad thing? Like, I don't
Well, I
get
mean, I
it.
think that's a board discussion to have. I think what's happened is you've put two things into the same bucket. You actually asked two questions. What is wrong with using student growth as a component of deciding if the teachers executed their job correctly? And what is wrong with EVOS? There's a large body of people that claim that, in body of work that says EVOS is not an accurate measurement. They're not opposed to the achievement piece, they're opposed to the inaccuracies of this thing. So it's a lot of multiple pieces that tend to get thrown in one pot.
But I know at MUSC, I'm sure they do performances and they hold their employees accountable, and in our little company, we do.
Yeah.
So I think we should be able to have a process to do that, and
Yeah.
unfortunately,
We're not going to call it EVOS. We're gonna,
right, whatever, yeah.
Call it Michael's plan.
We're going to call it bing, bing, bong, bong. I don't know. But I think, I agree with you, Rita. I think before it was miscommunicated in a way that I think teachers felt demonized. It felt like they were the victim. And I understand, I get that. Nobody likes to be caught,
Right.
sleeping with the pants.
Right, or after the fact, you want to know
Right.
ahead of time.
But at the same time, I also heard teachers saying that, they want to create the rubric that's going to be used to evaluate them. And then they said, well, you can't use test scores. But ladies and gentlemen,
How else?
I don't know any other way to determine whether or not you're proficient at something other than being tested.
Well, and I think that there's a lot of people that say they don't like tests. I don't think that, and this is again where we tend to take things out of context. K-12 doesn't test children because we have 5,000 principals, superintendents, and teachers sitting around going, what can we do to the kids? The places they go when they leave us are going to require a test. And you, as a board, have said, get these kids ready for where they want to go. Well, guess what? Where they want to go is going to require a test.
Todd?
Yeah, I just, I'm absolutely in favor of doing this. And even whether we use EVOS or not, as long as the culture is shifting to one in which you look at results. Like I had one of my children last year slip backwards in 12 by 12 at one of our quote unquote best elementary schools. I was fired up. I was furious. Once I'd learned enough, and I was if you could just educate every parent, if you could FOIA this information and educate, the parents would demand it and we wouldn't have to vote on anything.
That's right.
If parents knew what was going on. When you realize that, oh my goodness, 50% who don't grow by a year across the district, guess what? If you got more than one child in the district, it's probably affecting your kid or has it one year in the past. So I feel like we can't emphasize enough that it needs to be cultural stuff. It's not a gotcha, but it's a look. This is what went on in your classroom this year, or maybe in your classroom for the last 3 years, and let's get you to where you need to go. That this is we'll put the professional development in place, but because
I agree.
our results are
Right,
not
and it's not
satisfactory.
necessarily they don't want to do it. I think one of the very first things Dr. Postlewaite said to us when she got here was, the system has a way of stopping what you need to do. What you know you need to do, the system has a way of stopping you from being able to do that. But that's where we come in as a board and start having those conversations that says, we've got to have a system that people who want to do well can do their job well. And if there are inhibitors to that, and it's a law, a reg, a whatever, we need to have that conversation. It's called removing the barriers.
Okay, what's next?
The final item, thank you.
Yeah, feels like easiest presentation I ever gave.
Hope you guys kept each other warm over here.
The final item is just to take a look at the board schedule for second semester. So in your packets, there was a list of all of the dates that you have already agreed to meet. And at the
I don't see it.
I don't know how you manage the other things you do in your lives and serve on this board.
We don't.
I don't know that I could do it. There's
We
so
don't.
much to keep up with. But we do need to find time. When do we want to set aside the time for 3 or 4 principals each month to give you a 10 to 15 minute presentation? Even if we hold ourselves disciplined to 15 minutes per school, that's 1 hour a month. So
New official timekeeper.
Well,
He's doing it.
He is.
my suggestion was simply, because we have obviously so many schools and we'd like to hear from all of our principals, is to do a set of principals at every CAL meeting, having them go first, because historically, and I mean first before we go into executive session, because we don't want the principals out of the building long, if at all. Have them come as soon as we open at 1 o'clock. We have the principals do their presentation, and then we go into executive session, and then follow the rest of our agenda. And then when we have our board meeting, also have them come and do it, have another 3 or whatever, come then 2, that we're hearing 6 to 8.
So you're saying one every time, one set of presentations every time we gather.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a bad idea. I think we do have to accept the fact that our CAL meetings were never meant to start at 10 and end at 5. They were never meant to be a work day. So maybe we start at 1 and we spend an extra hour in our CAL meetings before we get into our work doing that.
But could we, before we start, I think we need to start the principal meetings and do those at the CAL, but we also have got to do some budget workshops. So instead of doing the principal meetings at CAL and board meetings, could we do some budget workshops on the afternoons before board meetings?
Or February, because think about it, if you're in, if we have a 3-hour board meeting and a 6-hour CAL meeting in February, and then you have to have 2 day-long workshops for the or 2 half-day workshops, what's that do to us who have to work? And I don't think Michael's gonna hang out for all that. So maybe
she'll be in school then.
Maybe in February we don't do it, but we could do it in other months.
Right.
Can we find a Saturday where we can do an all-day workshop?
Look at Todd.
whatever the board
Well, I'm
wants
off
to
the
do.
side because I'm on the side, but I'm just one person.
Todd left his home on a Saturday to go do school
What-
board
what-
stuff,
what
and
is slow?
I'm not sure he's gonna be allowed to do that again till the kids are 17 and 18.
So we'll work on this. It may be that we start the principal presentations in March. I think if that gives us time to work on the budget between now and then. And it also gives the Learning Services Division a chance to work with principals so that this doesn't feel like one more presentation. It becomes part of the work. It's actually just
Right,
working on the
right.
work
Right.
Yes.
and coming in to share with you what we're working on.
Right.
So that it isn't superficial, it is authentic
Right.
representation. Okay, and then Mr. Hollenshed had requested a board workshop regarding athletics. So I just will put that with the board officers and let the 3 of you work with that request.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anything else, anybody? If not, be safe.